The Black Ship Side Story, What's the Job? Chapter 11. This is your great plan? Ada said, unimpressed after listening to the message about to be sent out. What's that supposed to mean? Nico fired back. It's a little simplistic, no? And how does this get you any of the revenge you were looking for? Her eyes widened. Wait, and what about the client? Myra grinned. I feel oddly out of place. Normally it's me who's asking these questions. Maybe the captain's finally cracked. His plans aren't making sense to any of us anymore, Kartok jabbed playfully. Ouch! Nico threw out. Where's the faith in your captain? Didn't I promise you guys a bigger cut? When the others wordlessly nodded their agreement, he continued. Well, I got a lot of steps and things to line up first. And speaking of, this is only the beginning. I'll contact the guild and update them soon. Meanwhile, Ada, go ahead and prepare our operation through the dark channels. Make sure it can't be stumbled upon or breached by an agent or some other Principality codebreaker. Ada shrugged while nodding. That shouldn't be difficult. Their security measures aren't nearly as robust as ours. It'll take an expert to uncover us without knowing what they were looking for. And best of luck cracking my encryption algorithms. Good, Nico replied as he shifted toward his blue-skinned companion. Kartok, I want you to prepare the invitations for the great houses belonging to the traitor forces. I repeat, only the traitor forces. I don't want the loyalists knowing what we're up to. Not yet, anyway. What? Kartok questioned playfully. You make it sound like I'm going to invite half your principality. Nico eyed him sternly in silence, though a ghost of a smile threatened to break out on his face. Fine, only traitor houses, he acquiesced defeatedly. You're no fun. We could have made the whole thing deliciously awkward for everyone there as they fought each other off the battlefield as well as in it. But now you won't get as much money this way. Draymore will probably just order everyone not to bid while he comes in with the minimum. And that is why House Draymore is not getting an invitation, Nico grinned. The other houses will try and claw over each other as they vie for the bartering chip that will set their house ahead of everyone else in importance to the Duke. Not to mention, we don't actually know who our client is. It would be pretty poor form if it turned out to be Duke Draymore himself, and here we are charging him twice. Though I suppose you'd get your awkward situation then. Oh. I still say missed opportunity. But at least that's reasonable, he finished with a grin. Where are we going to base this operation out of? Myra asked. We'll need neutral territory for my plan to work. I want to do something similar there as we did there at Volantis. Nico promptly pulled up a holographic map of the Principality and stared at the house territories after folding his arms across his chest and resting his chin in his hand. House Tempest, I think. We'll set up at their capital world system. Myra frowned and tilted her head. Why there? The captain shrugged. Well, we've already made a mess in Gimor territory. House Ferentis already has treaties with both sides, so there's not much to be gained there. We no longer have a safe harbor in Caiston territory. As for House Tempest, he held out a hand to start numbering off the points. It's neutral, a little more centrally located to a lot of Draymore allies and not looking to hang us just yet. A perfect place to start some mischief, he finished with a playful grin. She nodded and smirked. Makes sense. What do you need me to do? You and I will go get the staples processed. Actually, Kartok, you can join us with that as well. That way we can send proof that we have them alongside the invitations once Kartok is finished. And with that, he got up and shut the map off. I'll see the rest of you when we're finished. Before Nico and Myra could get there, however, he was pinged about in an incoming transmission. A sigh escaped his lips as he realized who it was. Turning to his first officer, he ordered, Go ahead and take care of them without me. I'll catch up later. A couple of minutes later, he was in his room preparing to accept the transmission. Captain, growled Nico's handler, you'd better have word that you have the targets. There is news all over Principality networks talking about one great house joining the prince after a kidnap attempt on a noble family. Wow, Nico said, looking rather surprised as he scratched his chin. That was faster than I expected, and a bit disingenuous. The handler let out a deep groan. Don't be irritating. Answer the question. Do you have the targets or not? Nico nodded softly, flashing a cocky grin. Sure do. As promised. All 4 of them. Happy and healthy. He looked upward contemplatively for a moment before adding, well, healthy enough anyway. And probably not very happy now that I think about it. The captain could hear a relieved sigh come from the other end, alongside something else he couldn't quite make out. Finally, the handler continued. If that is the case, then I have questions regarding your earlier request. The client wants to know how long your plan will take. Considering how fast the other events are moving, I'd say around 10 to 14 days. Probably up to a standard month. I have to get to a safe place to pull this off first. Once done, I should be able to make contact with the loyalists and set up the meeting. From there, the client can make their move. Nico crossed his hands over his chest, looking rather pleased with himself. Was all the reply he received for a while. Tell you what, if they agree to let me go forward with my plan, I won't even charge them anything extra. I'll just stick to what we already agreed to and call it even. So if you happen to be able to coax a little more out of them, I'd just say enjoy the bonus. At this point, there wasn't much else the captain could offer. All he could do now was wait. Deal. The client has authorized your plan. You are good to move forward, came a very pleased-sounding person on the other end. Nico frowned. Wait, did you really just string me along to— You knew I'd offer that, didn't you? He accused, forcing himself to sound annoyed even though he wasn't. It was a good play and not one he fell for often. Besides, he had been willing to give up his second half of payment to get this approved. So all in all, he was pleased. Good day, Captain. And good luck. The connection died immediately, without further response, both happy with how things had turned out thus far. In the medical wing, the staples were being processed by Kartok and Myra. Their heights, weights, and vitals were all being recorded. Eye scans, blood draws, and fingerprints were being collected. Myra had been fine making a bit of small talk, but wasn't really answering questions about what was going on. When Nico joined them, the group looked at him with curiosity. Captain! If I may, called Wirt. What's this all about? Nico presented an apologetic expression as he approached. This is the unfortunate part of this whole affair, I'm afraid. As proof that I have fulfilled my mission, I am required to give unequivocal evidence that you are with me. Thus all of the procedures. Wait, you're still going to turn us over to whoever hired you? Wham asked with disappointed eyes. Nico pursed his lips as he clapped Wham on the shoulder gently. At this point, you have all become quite the celebrities amongst a special few in the highest circles. Sadly, not in a good way. If your brother had rejected you all, you may have been left alone. But personally, though, I doubt it. He's been involved in some pretty serious stuff that made a lot of eyes set their gaze on him. But I thought we were kind of friends, he pressed, looking more confused and hurt than anything. Nico let out a deep sigh as he handed him off to Winona, who wrapped him in her arms. I am sorry. Truly I am. I don't have anything against any of you. And it's been fun practicing with you. Myra tells me you're learning fast. The comment drew a discreet look from her that said not to bring her into this. He said nothing in response, but continued speaking to the staples. And even Weskull is starting to look like he can hold his own against more than just those dumb-as-bricks Clixall, he added with an almost proud smile. For his part, Weskull couldn't bring himself to smile, even if the words did give him a measure of pride as well. Who is it that hired you anyway? Asked Winona with as neutral an expression as she could muster. Which lord are we destined for? The captain huffed. Even I don't know that. I get my orders. I carry them out. I get paid. That's how it works. With all the family looking like someone had just kicked them in the gut, he rubbed his brow. Look, I know this is hard. If you help me finish getting these procedures done, I'll let you record a message for Wyatt to let him know you are well. It is more than likely he has been informed of what has happened by now. If you happen to mention how well you have been treated, I will request a reply and allow him to send you all a message as well. Wirt raised an irritated eyebrow. You want us to tell Wyatt how well you have treated us? You mean after Wham was shot, I suppose. Indeed, Nico replied, unfazed by the annoyed response. I'm not saying you have to give a five-feather review of the accommodations, but most people in these situations tend to feel less stressed if they know their family is being treated well. You may not understand this as, well, commoners. But this sort of thing happens not rarely amongst the nobility. That's why they tend to travel with a lot of armed guards. The thought of their son worrying himself to death did soften their opinions on the matter. Winona and Wirt shared a long look with one another before Wirt hesitantly, but slowly nodded his head in agreement. Very well. If it lets us reach Wyatt, we'll do it. Nico gave a small bow out of respect. Then in that case, I will get everything ready. When you are done here, Myra will bring you to the communication room. I'll need you to put in Wyatt's comm channel so I may send your message, he said, handing a tablet to lock in the communication information. Wirt nodded. I can do that, he said, before inputting the information in a way that shielded it from view from Nico or his crew. With that done, Nico retrieved the device, turned and left once again, feeling a tinge of guilt as he got things ready. While relations had actually been improving to near-friendly levels, the interaction reminded everyone how very much the Staples were still prisoners in this dangerous game for the soul of the Principality. Later that day, Myra approached. That was kind of you. What are you talking about? He asked coyly. She raised an unconvinced eyebrow. The message to Wyatt. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. I've never seen you be so charitable, she finished, nudging his shoulder. Charitable? Nico asked with a practiced, confused expression. Nothing charitable there. With those messages, I can now provide more convincing proof to our employer or anyone else I need to convince that we have them. I also gained a direct link to Baron Staples himself. Wirt thought he was hiding it from me by shielding the device with his body. But he forgot the cameras and Amara's ever-watchful presence, he said, even if his words lacked their usual confidence. I'll trade a little decency for that kind of information any day. He wasn't lying about what he got from the interaction. But when he closed his eyes in thought, it wasn't the leverage he thought about. It was the way Wham had looked at him as though he'd betrayed a friend. Refocusing on the task at hand, he forced the thought to the back of his mind with a slight shake of his head. If you say so, Captain. Myra grinned, deciding to just let the matter drop even if she could feel something was off. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Noir Navio. Aboard the Noir Navio, Wyatt wasn't talking as much as he normally did, and he smiled less after receiving news of his family. With little else to do, he trained. Whether it was with his composters, Milcades, or Cynthia, he was training till he collapsed. It was probably best that he didn't have any paint and canvas at the moment. The things his darkened mind would come up with currently would more than likely earn him a free psych evaluation. And he could feel it in the eyes of everyone around him. They gave him space as they were growing worried. While training with the composters, Leopold spoke up after they finished one of their training simulations. Hey, boss, is there, any chance we could take a break for a bit? We've been going at this for hours. Wyatt frowned at the request. But after seeing Leopold was absolutely correct, he let out a deep breath through his nose. Very well. Composters dismissed. When everyone else exited their simulation pods, Wyatt remained. Sitting in silence by himself as he tried in vain to clear his mind from thoughts of his family, his thoughts were interrupted by a ping inside his head. It was a notification that he had a video message waiting for him. He sat there confused for a long while as he tried to figure out who it could be. Most of those he was close to were with him on the ship. If it were the prince, he would have been no doubt summoned by Clara to speak with him. The only other people who would call him were, well, not able to, he thought with an angry frown. Wyatt was actually about to forget about it and check it later, but a nagging sensation in the back of his mind just wouldn't let it go. With a grumble, he pulled himself out of the simulation pod and headed to his quarters a few meters away to see what it was all about. Rather than just absorbing the information through his mind, he wanted to see it with his own eyes. Upon activating the device, he quickly input his data and immediately saw the message. With a click, it opened. A shadowy silhouette of a man standing and wearing a couple of pistols at his sides soon appeared in front of a plain gray background as a synthesized voice began to speak. Greetings, Baron Wyatt Staples. I regret this communique does not reach you under better circumstances. My name is of no consequence for the moment. However, I wish to convey my sincerest congratulations on your recent elevation to nobility. I have become a bit of a student of your work, and I must say I'm impressed. You've rattled the proverbial wasp's nest. Not an easy thing to do. But I'm afraid I am probably boring you with these trivialities. So I will cut to the point. I am sending you this message out of respect for what I have seen of you thus far. I hope you will accept this as evidence that I personally do not actually harbor any ill will toward either you or your family, despite my recent actions which would seem to speak to the contrary. Wyatt had been about ready to delete the message, thinking it another inflated overture by some noble trying to marry his daughter off to him, despite everything happening. Only now he was instantly hanging off every word. As the communique moved on, the images showed him individual messages of love, small updates on their well-being, and best wishes for his safety, and the day they'd be reunited by each member of the Staples household, one at a time. And true to his word, his father did mention as politely as he could manage to say how well they were being treated. It ended with them posing for a picture all together, waving and smiling through the strain, doing their best to look hopeful. As their messages came to a close, the silhouetted man reappeared. I'm sorry it could not be more, but that is the best I could do for now. In the meantime, I give you my word that they will not be harmed while under my continued care. Again, I harbor no ill toward you in any capacity. This is simply the unfortunate consequences of my line of work. If you wish to reply, you can send your message to the channel I am attaching. Stay alive, Lord Staples. I look forward to seeing more of your future exploits. The message ended with the shadowy figure bowing respectfully before it cut out. Almost immediately, Wyatt sent a communication request to Jincho marked as urgent, able to ignore almost completely the quip about being called a lord. It didn't take long for him to get a response from his avian counterpart. Wormbrain! Are you well? What may I assist you with? Came the ever-eager and upbeat voice of the local mechanical genius. I just got a message from the man who kidnapped my family, Wyatt blurted out almost before Jincho could finish. Can you track the source of the message? Send file. I will analyze. Shouldn't be hard to determine one way or another if it's possible, Jincho replied quickly. With not but a few thoughts, the Akanti had received the file and was analyzing it for clues. What went for a frown for his kind soon spread across his face. I'm afraid there is nothing I can do. Message was sent through a QEC device. Impossible to track or hack. Only true secure line of communication. Can say what buoy nodes it used, but can be hidden or deleted, but not more. I'm sorry. For just a moment, Wyatt had returned to his eager self. But with this latest dashing of his hopes for a quick resolution, his shoulders slumped. I see, he stammered, not sure what else to say. Hearing the defeat in Wyatt's voice, Jincho's shoulders slumped slightly as well. I will continue to analyze the message and see if any clues were left in it that might give away kidnapper's identity or affiliation, he offered instead, trying to sound encouraging. Thank you, Jincho, Wyatt answered sincerely, if somewhat deflated. I'd appreciate anything you can do. Of course. Always happy to help my favorite maniac pilot, Jincho finished. Cutting off the connection with the Yikanti, Wyatt replayed the message again, and again, until he lost count, staring at the faces of his family as if afraid they might vanish if he looked away. It was then that another thought came to him, and he sent a private request to speak to the princess. When she answered, he asked a simple question. Clara, may I have permission to handle the kidnappers once they present themselves? Perhaps you should come to my quarters. We can speak of this more openly, Clara suggested gently. I'm on the way, he said succinctly, and within minutes had entered Clara's quarters where she and Cynthia were just starting new knitting projects. Clara smiled when Wyatt entered and gestured toward his usual seat, where his knitting supplies were all ready for him. The sight of several of their favorite desserts resting on a tray between their places nearly succeeded in distracting him from his anger. With a shake of his head, he sat down, grabbing his knitting supplies but not beginning anything with them. Clara softly lowered her project and looked at Wyatt for a long moment before glancing down at the desserts and then back to Wyatt. Wyatt narrowed his eyes and pursed his lips before his resolve crumbled. He leaned over and snatched a veshkom, taking a bite out of it as if it had personally insulted him and his entire ancestry. The princess's smile widened and she resumed knitting, giving him a chance to collect his thoughts and start more calmly, even if she could feel a wide range of angry emotions flooding his mind. Meanwhile, Cynthia sat in silence, eyeing the two, not sure if she should smirk or look on with worry. Swallowing his bite, Wyatt set the dessert aside. Clara, how do these hostage things usually work? I take it you have heard from the kidnappers? She asked, barely able to hide her surprise at the swiftness of the communication. When Wyatt nodded, she gave a small shrug. You have already seen it firsthand. You held Maximilian Userek and Javier Wunder both as prisoners. You also released them under varying terms. Usually everything is handled fairly cordially. With a curious tilt of her head, she asked, What was said, if you don't mind my asking? Nothing! Wyatt snapped. Went on with normal blue blood formalities, showed me recordings of my family telling me they were fine, being treated well, and they missed me. Told me not to worry about them, just to stay safe. Clara and Cynthia shared a baffled look. And nothing more? Cynthia broke in. Nothing at all, Wyatt exclaimed with frustration. He apologized for not being able to give me more and said my family would be safe with him. Then told me to stay alive and he looked forward to seeing more of my exploits. No ransom request? No indication on when he'd reach out again? Clara pressed. Wyatt simply shook his head with exasperation. And worse, he apparently sent the message from a QEC, so I can't even track its origin. He did give me a channel to be able to contact him, but I doubt it'll be of much use if he doesn't feel like talking. May we see the message? Clara asked. Wyatt simply nodded, and as his eyes shimmered for a moment, the recording was shared with both his friends. It didn't take them long at all before they almost instantly processed the whole file in their minds. A shame he was using a voice synthesizer and masking his image, Cynthia bemoaned. A sympathy shared by her princess. Indeed, there wasn't enough there for me to recognize. He's obviously a noble. Is there some way I can force him out? Some rule or code I can call upon to make him come to me? Like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but demanding a duel or something? Wyatt finished, partially disgusted with himself for even thinking of it. Cynthia scoffed a laugh. Do you think he'd really accept if he's been watching what you have been up to lately? Wyatt looked at the blue-haired woman. Why not? Most nobles seem to think they can best anyone. Especially me, since I was a commoner. Clara shook her head, gaining their attention with her gesture. To your question, I'm afraid not. Any noble willing to kidnap your family the way they did is more than likely not going to be swayed by any sense of morality or honor code. And yet... She hesitated as something gnawed at her. It was so very pleasant. Nearly as carefree as if he were simply declining a dinner invitation. Can I at least kill him once I have my family back? Wyatt suddenly asked, breaking her train of thought. While Clara debated in her mind, fighting to keep her emotions level-headed despite what she was sensing from Wyatt, Cynthia noted Wyatt's balled-up, white-knuckled fists. His rigid stance reminded her of how he looked when he stormed into the gallant venture, and it worried her, leaving her uncertain as to how to help. I can't give you permission for that just yet. We need more information. He actually sounded as if he was intentionally keeping them safe. But from what? From whom? For what purpose? She asked. But seeing the disappointment written all over Wyatt's face, she smiled softly. I'm not saying he won't be punished, possibly even by you. I just want to know more about what's going on first. That's all. Much to both the ladies' satisfaction, Wyatt slowly loosened his grip on his fists as his body visibly eased the tension it had been storing. Slowly, he nodded his acceptance. Yes, my princess, he finished, with the smallest hint of a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Clara grinned and narrowed her eyes. Shush you! And finish eating your veshkom! What, are you trying to fatten him up? Cynthia teased, leaving Clara momentarily stunned and unsure how to retort as her cheeks reddened. Finally recovering, she shot back, You! You blue-haired demon! Shush, you both.